This little girl is me, and you told somebody that she's dead.
Wait a minute. You didn't disappear?
I'm right here.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Top 5 Central. Paranormal activity, talking to spirits, and things like that are some of the most debated topics in the world, with people constantly taking advantage of others by saying they have like supernatural powers. Now, whether you believe in stuff like that or not, it's fact at this point that there are many imposters who try to take people's money for fake services, so today we're looking at 5 psychics who got exposed on camera. Now real quick, I want you to comment whether or not you believe in supernatural stuff like ghosts or psychics. I'm really curious to see if you think it's real, so whichever side gets the most comments wins. Anyways, let's get right into it. Number 5. Now for this guy, exposing one psychic just wasn't enough, so he exposed 3 using the exact same trick. That's right, this guy found 3 people who all claimed to be real mediums, and basically proved that none of them could speak to the dead. So how did he do it? Well, he made up a completely fake story for the place he was meeting them, and then posted it up on the Chocolate Factory website. Not just that, but he left fake leaflets around the building with the same story, and even put a fake picture of the factory's original owner on the wall. Now it might seem like overkill, but it definitely paid off, because every single medium repeated the same fake story. In fact, one of them even went into a trance and channeled the first owner, even though he had never existed ever. To be fair, when they were called out, one of them did admit they had cheated, but the other 2 had some pretty crazy excuses. Like one said he couldn't have read the name off the fake picture because he needed glasses, and the other said he had picked a story from the host's brain, so it was his fault. Yikes.
Earlier, I invited 3 mediums to a one-time Victorian chocolate factory, where they all channeled the name George, an evil fat man who was the factory's first manager.
She's given me the name of George.
And I got the name George.
George?
It was George, yeah.
The only trouble is that George is part of a made-up story that I planted on the Chocolate Factory website a week ago.
I feel like he was quite angry about something as well.
I think they might be cheating, and I'm curious to see if they'll repeat any more of my fake history. Will they give me more bull in the form of George's made-up surname? And what of the terrible accident when he lost both legs to a pair of stampeding cart horses in the factory loading bay?
Oh, it's very busy down here, very, very busy. I feel like I'm on a race course here, watching the horses going up and down.
Lots of horses?
Yeah, OK, I could probably go into semi-trance, but not a full trance.
George, did the horses hurt your legs, yes or no?
Astonishingly, Goldie has actually summoned the ghost of my made-up factory manager.
That all came from a story that I made up.
Oh, did it?
With the help of a parapsychologist. And we put that
You
up
put
on,
it, yeah, I know.
on the website.
Congratulations.
And did you read that website?
No.
So how did you know all these facts?
A friend of a friend.
But, I mean, are you still pretty certain about the George Bull thing?
I am, yeah.
I'll be honest, I chose the name Bull for a reason.
Because it's shit. Yeah, I know.
Number 4. So making a living as a fake psychic is pretty dishonest, but being a fake psychic detective is a whole other level of lying. I mean, these people make money pretending to know where missing kids are, so I don't even feel bad about them being exposed. Basically, this news network decided to see just how far these detectives would go, so they came up with a completely fake missing persons case for one to solve. Like, all they had to do was give her a picture of the news anchor as a kid, and she started lying straight away. First, she said the girl was dead, and then came up with a whole story about her murder, even saying that the murder weapon was a rock. Not just that, but she pointed to a spot on the map where the body was, even though there was no body at all. Don't worry though, because the next day, she was totally exposed, because the same news network invited her in for an interview. She was told about the trick and immediately walked out of the room, and it was obvious that she was so mad about the entire thing. I don't know, kinda weird that her psychic powers didn't warn her something bad was about to happen, isn't it?
So we decided to see what would happen when we asked a psychic detective to help solve a missing persons case. Posing as the distraught brother of a missing child, we sent our producer, Charlie McElravy, to meet with Lori McQuarrie.
Hi, how are you? Very nice to meet you, Lori.
We showed her a photo of this missing girl, and she agreed to take the case for $400.
But I think it's solvable.
But what Lori didn't know was that the photo our producer gave her was actually a childhood photo of me. And obviously, I'm very much alive. You'll always know when you talk to a family member, when you start a case, you'll know if this person is dead or alive.
And that's the point, is that
every time.
Yes.
But apparently her psychic abilities didn't see this coming.
Lori, I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Does this girl look familiar to you?
Yes, she does. I worked this case.
This is a girl who you said was beaten and killed.
Okay.
This little girl is me. And you told somebody that she's dead.
Wait a minute. You didn't disappear?
I'm right here.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
How do you explain being completely wrong?
I can't explain it. I can't explain it.
You're charging them hundreds of dollars.
You know what, dear?
Hundreds of dollars. You're taking advantage of desperate people with a bunch of hocus pocus, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I think we'll go. Thank you.
Number 3. So everyone knows Psychic Sally. She's one of the most famous mediums in the world, but that doesn't mean she can't be exposed. I mean, she was invited onto the radio just to have a normal chat, so when she was asked to give the presenter's mom a reading, she had no chance to do any prep whatsoever. She agreed to do it, but the whole thing was a disaster, and even the mom seemed to find it funny. Like, the more Sally said, the more she got wrong, and the mom wasn't afraid to call her out when she said things that just weren't true. She ended up inventing names that were never in the family and talking about deaths that never happened. She even tried to guess how someone died and completely got it wrong. By the end, the psychic was super flustered, and even the presenter seemed to feel quite bad about what he had done. I mean, I've got to give Sally credit because she just kept going, even though nothing she said was working at all.
I've got better things to do with my day. What I wanted to know, Christine, I saw a young boy here connected to Richard, and also August the 3rd, and it's really coming through you because of you. So we wanted to know if there was a young boy that passed in the family on your side or on your father's side.
No.
Right.
No,
Richard, it's really coming through you, and there was a very strong sense also of your father as well here.
Oh, really?
And as I talk to you, I get a real sense of your dad, Christine.
Yeah.
But,
oh dear, yes. Well, he was a very strong character.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That's it. Now, Sally. Let's pause a second.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, you've had a try, and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But there is no boy in our family that died young, and August the 3rd means nothing to my mother. And now you're talking about my mum's dad, but you're speaking about him in very vague terms. I mean, when you say there's a sense of him...
You see, to me, when I talk about someone that has passed, it is never vague. I get I can't...
Well, tell us something about my granddad, then.
It's only... I mean, if I spoke to you tomorrow, Christine, I might not pick
how did he die?
Well, the only thing I get with your mum's dad, it's right on the side, something on the side of my head. That's the only thing that I get. And it really is the left-hand side of my... It's like someone's just... I want to sort of hold the left-hand side of my head, but I don't understand that either.
Okay, Mum, does that mean anything to you?
What side of her head?
Yeah.
Number 2. I've said already that psychics who talk about missing kids are pretty awful people, so it's hard for me to feel bad about this woman being exposed. I mean, this poor mother went on TV to ask the psychic if she'd ever see her missing kid again, and the psychic basically told her she was dead. The thing is, the kid was totally alive and ended up contacting police begging for help 9 years later. She was eventually found, but by that point, the mom had died after getting sick just a year after the reading. Obviously, the whole story is super sad, and people ended up roasting the psychic on social media for all the grief she had caused. With that said, she didn't seem to feel bad about it at all, and just released a statement saying only God is right all the time. Not just that, but her supporters said she was still partly right, since she managed to describe the dude who took the kid pretty accurately. Either way, her career probably wasn't harmed at all by the scandal, which is pretty tragic since the family's lives were definitely affected.
Right, but now she's under attack.
What a horrible human being.
For being wrong about this girl.
Hello, please. Help me, I'm Amanda Berry.
Almost 9 years ago, Amanda Berry's mom went on the Montel Williams show where resident psychic Sylvia Browne spoke of Amanda.
I don't think I'll ever see her again. Yeah, in heaven on the other side.
The WMMS morning show in Cleveland reenacted the transcript. The host read the part of the psychic.
I hate this when they're in water. She's not alive, honey.
Not alive? Then who's this?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here, I'm free now.
Amanda's mom is the one no longer alive. She came home from the psychic's reading telling the Cleveland Plain dealer she was devastated. She died a little more than a year later after being hospitalized with pancreatitis. Now Sylvia Browne is getting ripped on
Okay, here's her honorable mention. So James Randi is one of the most famous mentalists in the world, but he's also pretty famous for trying to prove that most psychics are frauds. Like seriously, the dude has offered $1 million to anyone who could prove they have powers in like a controlled environment, and so far, no one has succeeded. Anyway, a few years ago, he did the same thing on TV, offering a $10,000 reward instead of $1 million. All this dude had to do was flip a page in the phone book with his mind, and he was pretty confident he'd be able to do it. So what happened? Well, Randi put styrofoam all around the book, which would move if it turned out the psychic was just blowing on the pages. After a full minute, the psychic admitted he couldn't do it, but his excuse was pretty wild. Basically, he said that the lights were heating up the foam and causing static electricity, which was pulling the pages down against the book. Now, obviously that's not how science works, and it's way more likely that he was just planning to blow on the pages, but I guess the dude deserves credit for sticking to his story, maybe?
James turned the page of a telephone directory without touching it. And you claim to have done that with psychic power.
Yes.
Now, you're prepared to demonstrate your psychic powers again. You've warmed up. You're ready to go. Are you, James?
This time.
How many pages?
Just one page, once.
Like
okay.
that.
The styrofoam and the lights form electricity which pulls the page. Look. It pulls the page down instead of freeing the pages.
All right, and what would you like to ask us to ask Randi to allow you to do or for me to do?
To either take something else, either lighter or something that is going to that isn't going to form like static electricity.
You mean put something else, some other material around here?
Something that is not foam. Foam causes static electricity and the lights is what heats it up.
All right, Randi, is there anything else that you can put around the telephone directory?
I've heard the question, but the question is not valid because it's making an assumption which is not true. The foam does not in any way create static electricity.
Number 1. Psychics are normally pretty hush-hush about how much money they make, and that's not surprising, because the actual numbers are completely insane. I mean, this guy met with a psychic and ended up totally falling for her act, and in the end, he paid out more than $900,000 to her. Sounds insane, right? Well, it's actually way worse, because the money he gave her was from his mom's retirement account. Even crazier, that amount wasn't enough for her, and she asked the guy for another $500,000. Apparently, the extra money was to remove a curse that had been put on him, but by then, he had had enough. So he pretended to agree to hand over the cash, but it wasn't him who showed up to the meeting, it was the cops. The psychic was immediately arrested and ended up accepting a plea bargain, as well as agreeing to hand over all the money she had accepted.
Really need some comfort and counsel.
People are going through a very difficult time in their life, and they're very vulnerable.
People like Deborah Sawfield, who forked over $27,000 to New York City psychic Sylvia Mitchell, now serving a prison sentence for grand larceny.
The amount of money that we're talking about is astronomical.
How astronomical? In one case, try $900,000. That's the total sum swindled from Mary James's retirement savings after her son Brian fell under the spell of California psychic April Lee.
I'm mad at the psychic for how she manipulated my son.
I want nothing more than my mom to be paid back.
And that's where Nygaard comes in. Working with law enforcement, he tracks down his elusive target. She's driving in style in a brand new Mercedes and now wants an additional $511,000 to help remove a curse on Brian. A meet is arranged. Brian heads to an office where the supposed money transfer will happen. Then, in the parking lot, cops move in to arrest the psychic and her boyfriend.
April looked shocked. They had no idea they were going to be arrested. It was just...
And there's our video on the top 5 psychics who got exposed on camera. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to see whenever I upload a video. Also, if you have your own top 5 or top 10 idea, feel free to search my handy form in the description to submit it. With that said, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.